Hey everyone, I am here with my book buddy, Kathy Tony Kent. Is it Kathy Kent Toney?
Kathy Kent Toney, yeah.
I feel like it needs to be KTK, not KKT. Anyway, we have been on this roller coaster of a journey, writing a book and figuring out how to do that well, and kind of put our thoughts and experience out there well. And it's really been fun to have someone who gets it and is struggling through it too, and having a lot of fun at it. So we thought both of our books launch next Wednesday, November 17th. And so we really wanted to take a few minutes and share just about the books. We've read each other's books, and so we are curious about some things. So Kathy, you want to share first about yours?
Sure. My book is called No Nonsense Digital Transformation, and it is a step-by-step roadmap for digital journey success. So it's written for business leaders who don't know a whole lot about digital transformation, and we just want to get the word out and the benefits of that.
I love that. So my book is called Everyone Is Not Like You. It's really about creating authenticity and connection in today's workplace. And I have written it really with people savvy leaders in mind, and specifically those people savvy leaders that also like to get shit done. Like, those are my people. And so this is kind of a how-to guide to create a connected culture with authenticity and integrity kind of at the heart of it. So can we first start, because one of the things that really I kept thinking about when I was reading your book, Kathy, is just that relationship between people and process, because we both are very heavily in that. When we consult with people, we're heavily in that relationship. So from your perspective, talk a little bit about that people process relationship.
So I see it as a love-hate relationship. There are some processes, and actually a lot of processes, that people hate because they are so cumbersome. There may be a lot of waste in the process. People are doing the same things over and over again. They're doing manual tasks, and things just get bogged down. So here's a really good example of a client that I worked with. They had this product development process that was so bad that it took them 2 to 3 years to develop a product that should have only taken a year or less than a year. And it was so bad that they had, like, if they were on one step, they couldn't go backwards, they couldn't go forwards. It was just so rigid. And here's just an illustration of that. They had drawing packages that would need to be approved by business leaders. So they had this little physical packet and they put it on somebody's desk, and then it would sit there for 2 weeks. One time the CEO was on vacation for 2 weeks, and there it sat, and they didn't have any delegation of authority in place. So, I mean, it was a mess. So the CEO reached out to me. I helped them develop a Scrum process, and then 10 months later, they released their new product and several other products too. So that's an example of a process that you can love.
And, I'm thinking about the people part of that specifically, of course, and how, I talk a lot about in my book authenticity, and authenticity being showing up as yourself. And also making choices to show up more and more as yourself, and how that actually leads to integrity, right? Living more and more in integrity, kind of living by your values. And so when you have, it's interesting when you're changing up the relationship between people and process. There's some people that would go through that and be like, oh my gosh, the momentum created is amazing, and oh my gosh, things are flowing so much better. And then there's other people that there'd be a lot of fear created around, oh man, things are changing, and does this mean something's going to happen for, am I going to be needed anymore? And so I think it's so important. What I love about our Synergy is you really have to consider the people and the process both. Like both of these things are making things go, and including the leadership. So I think the leadership being aware of their imprints on the process and being honest about it. I mean, I kind of think of, if you're letting things pile up, if you're the bottleneck as a leader, there may be some integrity issues.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, okay. So how because that makes me think of engagement, right? The engagement of people in these process improvements, and also just in how the process can be improved, the opportunities, right? How does digital transformation increase engagement with people?
Well, lots of times employees, they may be doing all these manual tasks. They can be, receiving faxes, having to scan those, or doing data entry from them. They may be sending emails back and forth, texts back and forth. There may be repetitive decisions they have to make all the time. And when you can automate a process using digital transformation tools, what it does is it automates all those things, so that if you have the right tool, it can read, it can do OCR off of those documents, put it into forms for you so you don't have to do data entry. It can automate the emails, and it can take those approval packets like I was talking about and send them digitally to the next person. So what we've experienced is consistently across all clients a 300% increase in productivity. Mm-hmm. So what that does is, by removing those administrative tasks, those burdensome tasks, repetitive tasks, by doing that, the employees can begin to operate at a higher knowledge level, so they can be engaging with customers. They have more room on their plate, so they can talk with customers more. Maybe they could even start a project within the company. So it just increases that effectiveness and that efficiency. And if you're not having to do these manual, boring tasks, chances are pretty good you're going to be more satisfied, and you're going to be more engaged. You're going to be more on top of things. You're not going to have to remember where you were in the process and waste time trying to figure that out if you get interrupted. So it can just create this synergy of more time on people's plates to, engage in more fun stuff, I guess you could say.
Innovation, really. So one of the things that I've experienced with clients is the grind of some of those activities, like the daily grind of some of that will actually, you may be front loading purpose. So you may have a very clear purpose statement and very clear values, but if they are in that sort of automatic grind sort of role, it actually drains the purpose out of them throughout the day. And they may they're trying, but those just repetitive tasks can be very draining of, inspiration, actually, and motivation around whatever the purpose is. So and which goes back to authenticity. Like, if you want people to show up as themselves, you have to know they have more than just like what a machine could do, what AI can do. So exactly. The other part of that, though, is the flip side of that is when you increase productivity so much with automation, there is a fear that now I'm not needed. There is a fear created. Change itself, I think we both probably experience with clients, like change is hard and creates its own fear around it. But when you're automating things like that, there's a big fear that it could mean jobs cut.
Right.
And I mean, sometimes it is about those jobs being cut, but maybe other jobs are created that are, like you say, way more valuable and proactive than just a reactive kind of automatic job. I mean, what would you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that business leaders need to resist the, caring so much about the bottom line that they would lay off those employees. But, if they can just keep in mind that, oh, this person, they're really good at this, they've got more room on their plate. Well, I'm going to give them this job that, previously may have been a little bit of a stretch for them. But, once they're in that role, they just grow and they can just expand and become better leaders for their own area that they're in.
Yeah.
So I think that's a real thing that business leaders would have to resist doing. But I think if they can realize the potential, how it can impact their company, to go ahead and reinvest those people in other areas and projects.
Yeah, what I hear you talking about, Kathy, is freedom. Like, what this automation does is actually gives you freedom then to reimagine or even redesign how you're doing the work, which is, I think, in today's market, a huge competitive advantage to have the freedom to reimagine and redesign what you're doing so that you're actually agile, right? You're able to leverage change and the volatility of the market, both with technology and your people and culture.
Yeah. And a lot of companies are beginning to see that. And the ones that are embracing digital transformation, they're the ones that are making advances. They're the ones that are becoming more competitive and more profitable.
Okay, so that brings up a good question. How can leaders spot opportunities around particularly that digital transformation, automation? How can leaders know, like, what's red flags for them to look for that says this is the route we need to go, we need to talk to you?
Right. So one of the first things they would do, well, first of all, they need to embrace the idea of embracing digital transformation. There's a statistic that 70% of teams that are undertaking digital transformation initiatives, 70% of them believe that a project will fail before it fails. So I know, isn't that amazing? And I think, I know, that's pretty bad. So there's a whole process that's involved before you even start looking. And I was going to mention doing a process audit. Before you even do that, your organization for success. You need to prepare your organization for success. That includes getting the right mindset, getting the right culture, and just making sure that people are on board with it. And then when you get to that point, and then I would bring you in, Rachel, to help with that. And the next step would be to do this audit of your business processes. So you would go in and say, okay, which of these processes have the most fat in them? Which ones have the most waste, repetitive decisions that are going on? And by the way, digital transformation has robots in the background that make these repetitive decisions for you just by setting little boundaries within the software. I just wanted to add that in there. But anyway, you can go in and find out which of those processes have the most waste and have the most potential to eliminate that. And then I would also look at those processes that are most impactful. One might be customer service. And then you would kind of, all things being equal, you might want to choose that customer service option. So that's how you would go about doing that.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying, particularly things to look for, are processes that seem to be super repetitive and that seem to have some waste, just like wasted time, wasted opportunity.
Right.
And, yeah. Yeah. I think what's really interesting is for me, um, people are like leaders to like the opportunities that I would like leaders to look for when it comes to culture is really ways to engage their people. Like if they're turnover, of course, is always if there are teams with turnover, but if there's teams that just feel like there are missed opportunities, there's just seems like there's this disengagement, like nobody's really going above and beyond. um, People don't really feel, I mean, it's the same kind of teams you're talking about. They're just kind of lackluster, and it's like they could be doing more, but they're not. And a lot of times, you mentioned customer service, which is a big focus in my book, that customer service teams are generally like created as end of the line things, like, oh crap, it's like somebody's got to answer the phone, so let's hire some people to do that. Which is really such a wasted opportunity, because those phone calls really are feedback, they're inputs. And so if you're not looking at the interactions of your customer service people as really valuable inputs, you're missing the opportunity that customer service holds for you. And so, and if your customer service staff is doing what you're talking about, just like basic repetitive things that are taking away from like the human to human connection or the opportunity for human connection, I think that's what I would have leaders pay attention to. And I love you've mentioned your audit process, which is a fantastic time to engage your people, and just hearing their experience. A lot of times I'll tell leaders that really want to define their culture and kind of grow their culture with them, that why don't you start with the front line and listen to what your culture actually is before you put anything on paper. And let's see what the gap is between where you are and where you think you are or you want to be. And so I love that sort of idea of an audit process and engagement in that. So will you tell me about Kent Business Solutions, and just what is the purpose of your company, and how do you like to help?
So I am all about helping organizations become profitable beyond their imagination. And who doesn't want that, right?
Love
and
that.
We do that through process improvement and process automation. So I sell some software called Accelerate, and the book talks a little bit about what it does, and some of the things I talked about, that increase in 300% productivity, that's what that does. So that's what we are about.
Awesome. Well, thank you for asking. So Mosaic Collaborative we're really here to help people show up more and more as themselves, to really bring more in themselves to work, because we believe that is what's going to lead to innovation and growth and all those other things. And so if they can connect to who they are, and if they can connect to what they do, which is where automation is so helpful, if they can connect to what they do and get really clear on what they're doing, then that will increase all the good stuff. Whatever the good stuff is that you're looking for, whether it's productivity, profitability, engagement, growth, whatever it is, I believe it starts with people showing up as themselves and connecting to what they do. And so that is what we like to help with. So
yeah, sounds good.
Kathy, we are T-minus just a few days.
Yes, we are.
We're going to do this.
We are.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing you. and what you do. And I'm so happy to be connected with you and on this journey with you.
Me too. It's been so much fun. I've had my own little personal cheerleader in my corner.
Love it.